only a few races a year that unite American cycling fans. There are national championships, there are world championships, and then there's Tulsa. The biggest party on two wheels is right here in the heart of Oklahoma. And now it's on RGT in the Echelon Racing League. Tulsa is back, bigger, better, and tougher than ever. It's time for Crybaby Hill in today's virtual Tulsa Tough. Well, and what a great day it is for some virtual racing as we get ready to bring one of the biggest in real life races to the virtual platform. Brad Soner here with Lauren Hall. Lauren, I can already see the smile on your face. We are ready for some Tulsa crit racing.
What a great weekend Tulsa Tough is. I mean, from the Thursday night nighttime crit all the way up until today's race. Yeah, I'm really excited, and it's cool to see Jacqueline Godby just kind of commanding the field at the moment.
Well, much different racing on tap today at Criterium compared to last week or 2 weeks ago where we were at the virtual Tour of the Gila. A lot of climbing, long road stages there. This week, though, shorter Criterium racing. Let's go back and look at Tour of the Gila. The final day was really the decisive day. It came down to that long climb, and Jackie Godby, once again, just put the hurt on Julia Shalau on the front here. Godby was so consistent throughout the day, but once again, it came down to her efficiency, Lauren. These long days, Godby really shines. You can really see the smarts that she has on the bike.
Yeah, this was the one time that we did see Shalau put Godby under any kind of pressure, but, you know, Godby just knows how to respond, stay calm, and just come back for the win. It's very impressive for her. She's just taking control of this entire series.
Even took a little draft on the way up and then attacked at just the right time. Godby clearly has the best grasp on the gameplay here on RGT. We caught up with her after her win last week.
Jackie, tell me a little bit about that race.
Wow. I'm just going to start off by saying that was a race. I think it had a little bit of everything. We had a really great group of people. I mean, we had 90% of the field through that first hill, which I think has been a really big change up. It was a lot of fun seeing those great pack dynamics, the turnover for the beginning half of the race. And then there was that fantastic downhill. I don't think we've had a downhill this long on RGT. So I think you saw a lot of the racers starting to get restless, mentally preparing for the back of the Gila monster and that huge hill immediately after. We had another fantastic breakaway hill with amazing performances again by Julia, just putting incredible watts up the backside of that hill, breaking the rest of us just away. And I also really, really want to highlight Moggs today. Despite her technical failures on the hill, just put in insane efforts to get back and catch up. And oh my goodness, some of the powers she put out, again, I'm her competitor. I'm racing to beat her, but just massive amounts of respect for the efforts she put in up today.
Well, some breaking news in the women's field over the last couple days. A suspension coming from the Zwift anti-doping agency, finding that Julia Shalau had violated their policies. That decision was carried over into the Echelon Racing League, so they have taken the decision to recognize and uphold the suspension until further notice for Julia Shalau. So it's an important process, Lauren, to make sure that all these rides are fair, make sure that we're riding fair on the platform. But it is important to note that we do have a verification process here on the Echelon Racing League, very similar to what they do on the Zwift platform. And that's what helps us determine that these are authentic performances in either the Echelon Racing League or in Zwift races. So we have a couple ways that we process riders and process their results to make sure that those are legitimate results. It starts with calibrating the trainers using the manufacturer spin down test. That makes sure that everyone's receiving accurate data on the trainers. The riders also submit 2 power files each week in our Pro Series. That allows the officials to compare those files and make sure that files aren't being altered. They would have to alter those 2 files equally. And then they also have an eBio passport program in the Echelon Racing League where riders submit those power files, and then the eBio passport program then analyzes the historic power data, looking for discrepancies, any outstanding performances, large changes in power, or anything like that. And then there's the weigh-in video as well each week. Riders have to prove their weight because the RGT platform is based so much off of the importance of power to weight. So they have a validation process where they have to provide a long video proving their specific weight. So unfortunate news coming out of the Zwift world that also bleeds into us here in the Echelon Racing League. But we continue with Tulsa Tough today and Jackie Godby, our dominant rider in the series. So that will change things in the overall series standings as Aaron Ayala going to move up to second place overall. Dylan Baker moves into third for the Project Echelon Racing team. This is a great opportunity for Ayala here, especially in the criterium where Ayala is really going to have a chance to beat Jackie Godby in this situation, Lauren.
Yeah, I mean, if anybody is the big winner in all of this, which is a super unfortunate event, is definitely Erin and her moving up to second overall. So yeah, good for her and to show up and just to keep racing and moving moving up on the podium.
Well, there is some of the riders in your pro women's field getting ready, warming up here. Most of these riders start something like maybe 20 or 30 minutes on the trainer before. You see Aaron Ayala there on the bottom or middle left of your screen getting ready for her setup as well. That's going to be an important one to watch today. So, again, the criterium situation here really makes things unique on RGT because anyone can win. This is a situation where Jackie Godby can absolutely get beat today, Lauren.
It does, back to the crit racing versus what we've been doing last couple of weeks with the Tour of the Gila is, the Tour of the Gila is more of a consistent effort, not any true turns or corners essentially, but yeah, back to the crit racing of you have to factor in your corners and when to get back on the power and really to give it for for your final sprint. So yeah, I'm curious to see how Jackie does and kind of responds to all of the information that has just come to light in the last couple of days.
I think Jackie Godby may be on a Zoom right now, getting a little work done before the ride. She has been doing incredible work in the Echelon Racing League and on and off the bike. She's been doing 3:30 a.m. workouts as she's been doing her residency at the hospital. So she's got to get in for her shift. So she's been getting up at 3:30 to ride, getting ready for the Esports World Championships coming up. It has been absolutely spectacular watching Jackie Godby over the last really 2 years turn in from 2020 starting racing on these virtual platforms to now becoming a dominant rider on the world stage. She's going to be heading to the World Championships in a few weeks here. So we really do have the best talent in the world racing here in the Echelon Racing League, and it's an honor to have Jackie Godby racing our virtual Tulsa Tough. Let's talk about Tulsa Tough here, Lauren. This is one of our favorite days of racing every year. It's the Crybaby Hill Day at Tulsa. Now, we talk about the party on Crybaby Hill, but the riders, they got to conquer that hill every single lap. So it's really going to be important to attack there, important to keep your power up there. But man, it is a steep one right out of turn one.
No doubt, it's a kind of like a stair step of a climb or hill, I guess you'd say, and then you roll across the top. And then you scream back down the hill, and then there's a sharp last right-hand turn into the finish that usually, again, that's something else you have to be super aware of. Not just the hill on the front side, but that last corner going into the finish is very technical.
And we talked about the final sprint to the line. The question is, will that be enough for Aaron Ayala to do what Aaron Ayala does best with her patented finishing sprint here in RGT? One of the best finishers in the game. So we'll be keeping our eye on Aaron Ayala. Today's criterium, you see her just on the left-hand side of the field, right-hand side of your screen. I love the Tulsa Tough banner here. Tulsa always has some of the best design in pro cycling out there. They really have one of the coolest setups in Tulsa. I love the racing there, but I just love the vibe in general. We talk about the pro races in Tulsa, but there's so much more going on in the weekend of Tulsa. They have the Fondo, they have their corporate challenge ride, they have their Diva ride. It's more than just the pro bike races, Lauren.
Yeah, Brad, it's such a good community there, and you feel it at every single race. Every race is slightly a little bit different with what comes out as far as the atmosphere. But yeah, the entire weekend is so great, and then you've got all the restaurants that support this, and yeah, it's one of my favorite races on the calendar. Like you said, there's like World Championships, there's National Championships, and then there's Tulsa Tough. It's its own unique experience.
Everybody knows Tulsa. It is our American flavor of bike racing, and I think that's maybe the coolest part about criterium racing in general here in the United States. So, all right, we are inside about 15 seconds to race start here. So riders starting to ramp that power up here, Lauren. It's time to get those as high as they can go, because when this clock hits zero, they want to have their power as high as possible.
Yeah, and then you go from the start all the way into the climb immediately. So this could split up from the gun.
Yeah, I have to imagine the first couple laps on RGT here are going to be really important, because we talk about this a lot every week. Once you lose contact with the group, like with the main group, you're out. Very similar to real-life bike racing, but especially on RGT, it becomes really, really difficult to get back on. So these first couple laps are going to be crucial for riders to just stay in the group, just stay in contact here. It doesn't look like Jackie Godby is going to make it easy here.
Yeah, and then, that's the other thing is, like, you have to, if you do get gapped off, you have to spend energy on the downhill where everybody's conserving, and so that just wears on you after time. And this is just like in real life. As soon as you get off the back, you're expending that energy you didn't want to do, especially in the first couple laps. You're not truly warmed up. Your central nervous system hasn't been tapped in yet. So yeah, for Jackie to just go off the front, and everybody just has been put under pressure immediately.
Look at this. Red zone on the way down. A little bit of rain in virtual Tulsa today. Our virtual world will generate some random weather patterns depending on the day. So Godby already giving herself about a 30-meter gap. Now, Jackie Godby likes a good race. She likes some competition. She likes to make it interesting. But Jackie Godby's also training for the World Championships here. So when you're on that level, when you're riding at that high of a level, every workout counts. I mean, she needs to hit some certain metrics if she's going to be on the bike for an hour. So I'm wondering if maybe she pushes this in anticipation of the upcoming national and world championships.
That's a good question. I don't know, because at the same time, you still want to win the race and kind of put your stamp on and have that confidence of still winning, which, I think by this point in the series, we kind of assume that she's probably going to take the win. But, if anybody's going to be a threat to her, here we are. We have Mobs, like we've talked about from Tour of the Gila. Like, Mobs had an unfortunate mechanical last time. And so, to see what Mobs can do and maybe put Godby under pressure, like, that's training in itself right there, Bob.
Yeah, this is one where you can only hope that she got the mechanical or the technical fixed from last week. It was a dropout issue, lost connection with the game. That's the most common issue that we see here on RGT. And these two are splitting it. Look at Ayala trying to go at it as well. Now you can see just how steep that hill is. As soon as they hit that corner, just like in real life, Lauren, you do that right-hander and then it's up, up, up. Mob's trying to hold on to Godby here. Godby's going to make this fun. She is not going to take this easy today. She's hitting it every time they hit this climb.
And with crit racing, it's kind of hard to settle in and to get a groove going. So, yeah, it'll be interesting if these two can kind of settle in and get a rhythm. But with Crybaby Hill, it does mix it up like that. Like, it just makes it hard to just get in any sort of rhythm. But if anybody can do it, she'll be able to.
There's a look at Rhea Mobs. Her setup. Trying to hold on to the wheel of Godby here. I love being able to watch these riders in real time, because you can see Godby accelerate and then you see Mobs have to respond. And the fact that we're only, I should say, 3.5 minutes into this one, and these riders already looking gassed. That's a pretty good indicator as to what this day is going to be like, Lauren.
And already a significant gap back to third to Ayala, now 160 meters back. Again, we've seen this time and time again, is once that split happens, it's kind of hard to, like you said, it's hard to catch back up.
Well, for the back, Ayala at about 130 meters back, sitting in third. Now, all Ayala has to do is just hang in here today. I mean, if she can keep this within like 150 meters, she may be able to come back. Schulman or Ulay, O'Toole, Nelson, Miller, Chrome, Schumann back there, they may be able to link up and work with Ayala to bring her up to those two. The worst case scenario for Ayala here is that she misses a split and doesn't have a chance to sprint. So if this gap keeps getting bigger, Ayala needs to redouble her efforts to get up to that front group. Not that it's easy to get up to a Godby and Mobs group, two of the strongest riders that we've seen in the Echelon Racing League here.
That's a victory in itself if you can get up there to those two. My gosh. I don't know if you saw this week, Erin posted a fun Instagram story about herself and her quote unquote warm up, and it's her dancing. So whatever it takes to get warmed up, Brad.
Yeah, she posted a great insight into her pre-race prep as well before Tour of the Gila. It was really interesting seeing all the work that she did in the hours really leading up to an Echelon Racing League event. You're talking about nutrition, preparing food, preparing bottles, putting them in the fridge, making sure they're cooled, opening your schedule, making sure that you don't have anything else falling on top of that. It's really incredible what these riders do to make the time to race, and the commitment week after week. We're into week 4 of the Echelon Racing League here. For a lot of riders, that's been 8 weeks of racing if they're doing the community league races in the week before the pro races as well.
Like you're talking about Godby getting up at 3:30 a.m. That's incredible. That's next level, Brad.
A lot of next level riders here in the Echelon Racing League. Look at Ayala on the top of your screen. Schumann pulling away a little bit on the bottom of the picture here, on the bottom left. Nice job by Ayala, though, not panicking. She knows it's on the downhill. There's no reason to respond here, no reason to jump on the wattage. Don't waste any more watts than you need to. You see, even here, she's saving some watts. She's saving 30 watts sitting this far back. She's about 8 meters behind Schumann, but in the upper left corner of the RGT interface, it does show you the current wattage being saved. So this is just good old-fashioned smart riding by Erin Ayala right now. Great job.
Yeah. I'm sure it probably takes a little bit of time to adjust back to crit racing from the stage races from a couple weeks ago, and so trying to figure out those parameters in these first couple of laps, and these two join up. So again, like hopefully they can settle in. Godby and Mobs up there, they're probably doing the exact same thing, going to keep pushing pretty hard. But for Ayala, this is good. She could use the assistance here, and her and Schumann kind of going after it. That'll be good, a good test for Ayala as well.
Schumann pulls away on the climb again. Crybaby Hill making its impact here. Now, I don't know that Ayala really needs to hold on to the wheel on the way up the hill. I mean, as long as you're within 15, 20, maybe 30 meters by the time you get to the top, I think that's enough for Ayala to catch back onto the downhill. So 20 more times, though, we'll see. It's going to be interesting to watch this Ayala Schumann group. So we're going to get a 2-for-1 today, because I think these two are going to lock in, and then Ayala and Schumann are going to lock in as well. So sort of two concurrent races happening on course. Looks like these two have settled down a bit on the downhill section here. Remember, they were pushing earlier on the way down, and it'll scrub some speed off through those corners, but you can see the elevation profile at the bottom of the screen, that blue section, little blue bar there, the downhill, and then the green part they're on right now is basically the start-finish stretch.
Yeah, it seems like Mobs and Godby are kind of evenly matched on effort and throughout the entire course, where Schumann and Ayala, it may be a little bit different. So again, the efficiency and differences we'll see over today's race with these two groups like you're talking about, and how that'll play out.
A Mob stepping in to challenge Jackie Godby here. And again, this is the place to beat Jackie Godby. From a physiological standpoint, you will not beat Jackie Godby on a lawn climb. You're not going to beat her in a time trial. You're not even on a flat road race. Godby is one of the most powerful riders in the country right now, in the world, on these virtual platforms. So you're not going to beat her there, but you can beat her in a sprint. If you can use this hill the right way, if you can keep attacking her, if you can just stay with her, then there's a chance that you can beat Jackie Godby in the Echelon Racing League. Right now, Rhea Mobs is the great hope to unseat the queen, Jackie Godby.
That's well put. And I was going to make the analogy of Mobs is kind of in shark-infested waters, and is Jackie just kind of waiting and buying her time with Mobs? But you got to jump in to find out.
Yeah, And again, Godby likes a good race. I mean, she likes some action. She likes to keep it fun. Jackie Godby doesn't want to come out here and ride by herself for an hour, so she will keep the race interesting. I mean, she'll give a little handicap to riders in a situation like this, because there's no question in my mind that if Jackie Godby wanted to, she could probably ride mobs off her wheel right now. I mean, if she put in a concerted 5-minute effort and said, I'm just going to go all out, I'm going to do my max effort, she could probably drop mobs in that scenario, but she's not, because she likes a good race. She wants to make it fun, and we appreciate that.
Yeah. But I also wonder, Mobs had the technical, a couple weeks ago, and she was just so strong. So you got to wonder, like, maybe we just saw a glimpse of something that we haven't seen yet with her and going up against Godby. So I don't know. I don't want to just discount Mobs quite yet and just give it to Godby, but ever the optimist that I am. So
I think you and Rhea Mobs might get along well. I'm reading the inspirational poster, I guess, behind her. I was, until she stood up and blocked it. It's something about not quitting when you get tired. There's quit and tired in there. I think it's, if you get tired, it's time to rest, not to quit. I like that. That's a good quote.
Oh, there you go.
I guess same applies in RGT. Just time to lay off the wattage a little bit. Huge wattage on the climb here. They're doing about 500 watts. They're peaking 6-7 watts per kilo. Those are big numbers, but they're only doing it for a few seconds. How does this effort, Lauren, compare to a longer road race? I mean, total output effort. I've heard people talk about like a TSS number. I have no idea what that means. I know it has some way of measuring load in some way that just tells you how hard you work. But, I mean, compared to a long road race, doing Crybaby Hill, let's say 15 or 20 times, is it equally as hard as doing a long climb that you're on for 20 minutes?
It is, but it's so different, isn't it, Brad? I mean, because, and it just, the mindset and per athlete, it's just a little bit different because, some people excel at that 30-second all-out effort and then recovering and doing it again and again and over and over and over. And some people excel in just grinding it out for 20 minutes. So, like I said, this may be where Godby struggles. We don't know. We have not seen any cracks in any of her abilities. So, gosh, you got to try and look for something, and Mobs is probably looking for anything. So maybe this is it. Maybe this is something that Godby's not so good at. It's doing these efforts and then settling back in. But that's, again, where I go back to the importance of the efficiency aspect of being on that wheel on the backside of the course, on the downhill, and conserving as much energy and preparing, again, to come back around to Crybaby Hill for that 30 to 40 second effort.
Look at the way Godby hits it out of the saddle. We've been talking a lot about her form throughout the season. Jackie Godby doesn't get out of the saddle a lot. So to see her doing this on Crybaby Hill tells me that she came to play today. And I could just tell they were on Crybaby Hill by the way they were riding. By far the hardest of the 90-minute or 90-second lap.
And like you said, it's not just the hill. It kind of rises after that for a short amount of time. So if you've got the mental capacity to factor in the hill, but then also to know that it rolls and you have to keep that power on, for another 10 or 15 seconds, again, that'll play into your psyche for sure over these, hour racing.
Fastest lap times, somewhere around just under 3 minutes in the in real life Tulsa Toughs, the current Strava leaderboard held by Danny Summerhill with a 2:59 lap on this course.
Danny Summerhill is also known to just ride or die.
Yep.
You got to be careful if you're comparing to him, because I've definitely seen him slide out in the last corner just going for it, that's fun racing.
I think we all have. I think it's a rite of passage in pro cycling.
Yeah, and it's not a knock on him at all. It's more of man, that guy's got some kudos.
Best women's time is Karina Redard with a 3:46 lap time from the 2019 Tulsa Tough. Summerhill did it in 19 as well. A lot of fast times from 19. Maybe something about the weather conditions that year. Maybe it wasn't as hot, something. Allowed riders to shave a few seconds off, but it seems like they set a lot of records in the 2019 edition.
Some new asphalt or something?
Could be. Everyone got disc brakes that year. That was what happened. Things just got faster all of a sudden. All right, so Mobbs and Godby still together. They are going to be working through some lap traffic. You see Baker up ahead in 13th position, so you'll see them working through some other riders. They are going to keep those other riders on course. There are no pole riders in RGT. That's one of the cool things about the Echelon Racing League here. Everyone gets to do the full distance. Everyone gets to race the full race since we don't have to worry about crashes or anything like that. We can allow those riders to ride. There you go. There's the inspiration over the shoulder. If you get tired, learn to rest, not to quit. I would say that would come into play right about now. 15 minutes in, starting to get tired, starting to think about quitting. Schumann, third position all alone here. It looks like Ayala has dropped down with Chrome now. Those two have linked up a little bit further back. About 300 meters behind Schumann here, so Schumann obviously putting an effort over the last couple laps.
That Crybaby Hill, you know, we talked about that weight per kilo. Like, it just goes to show that Schumann, you know, she's pushing hard every time on the climb and not really settling in and not letting Ayala be there and sit on the wheel. So, yeah, that's Schumann's in a good spot, and you know she's got a long day ahead of her.
She's going to be in a tough spot in the middle of nowhere here between the battle for 4th and 5th and the battle for 1st and 2nd. 660 meters up to Godby and Mobbs. That's a big gap to come back from. I don't know that this one gets reeled back, as that gap has been pretty consistently growing for the last 16 minutes. I would suspect that Chrome and Ayala may be able to make it up there if those two can cooperate. The hope would be that Schumann went a little too hard too early and has to lay off a bit. That would allow Chrome and Ayala to work together, cooperate, take some turns drafting off of one another, and try and get back up to Schumann here.
It's a tall ask, but you know, you can't discount anything in bike racing.
Go further back to Nelson in 6th, Rokkanen dropping down to 9th as O'Toole moving up rapidly here. Back to the Chrome Ayala battle.
Yeah, having Crum on Schumann's team, so if Crum is racing smart for Schumann, you know, I'm not quite sure how they're going to play that, but you know, Crum should definitely make Ayala pull on the uphills up Crybaby Hill and let her set that tempo and just try and sit on as much as possible. But again, this is RGT. Everybody may be looking to get a good workout, so we'll just see if, you know, they want to just roll hard together all day.
There's Chrome on the wheel of Ayala. This is hard to do. Chrome definitely has a good grasp of riding on RGT. She's got some experience on the platform, because a lot of riders have trouble holding on to a wheel like this, maintaining a draft, sitting on the wheel. Just like in real life, it's hard to maintain that speed and keep it perfectly locked onto that wheel in front of you. But you can see Chrome doing a great job here, getting the maximum wattage saving that she can, the maximum draft. It's about 60 to 70 watts. It peaks around 85, so she is saving a significant amount of energy here. Now you see the upper left corner, that number that goes red, it's 185, 88, 200, somewhere around there. That's showing that those are wasted watts. She's putting in more watts than basically the draft can handle, and so it essentially scrubs those watts away. So it's designed to help you be more efficient to use that wattage and use that drafting just right. So Chrome doing a good job, and then makes the pass the bottom of Crybaby Hill, just going to sit on and then jump to the front on the way up. Brilliant.
It's fun to see the slope in the upper right hand corner go from like 13% and all the way, you know, to 11 and then drops to 6. Like, it's such a beast of a climb.
Well, Beast Mode Rose brings a solid squad to our pro women's race here. 6 women starting on their combined roster. They're one of the teams that fields both a pro men's and pro women's team. So we'll see some of their men's competitors later on in the day. But numbers not going to help you here in this scenario. Once that separation happens, there's really not much that the teammates can do. You see all those German flags early on the left side of the screen, but now they've all started to separate.
It's like Crom maybe pulling away from Ayala again. Yeah, it's this is a hard course. Like I said, you can't get into a rhythm. You can't settle in, and it's probably going to be mixed up like this all day.
Yeah, you can see why they need to pull riders in the in-real-life edition because there would just be too much carnage on the course with riders getting caught, riders having to pass other riders. So RGT, they're able to work those physics to make sure that there's no crashing interaction when you're passing lapped riders. So it's a nice addition to the virtual world. Love our virtual helicopter up above as well. This feels like the real life Tulsa Tough. They also have one of the best IRL live streams of the year. Always a pleasure to watch.
It's such a fun weekend too. I mean, just each course is so unique and different. And like I said, the community for each course, it just each has its own feel. And then you get to Sunday and you get to Crybaby Hill. It's like a celebration of cycling. It is so much fun to be there in real life.
Godby and Mobs locking in the red zone here. Now, if this were real life, this section of the course would be lined with fans, 3-4 deep. Probably one of the bigger crowds that you'll see throughout the year in American bike racing.
I always
them the
appreciate
day off
the
in the virtual
referees.
world. Yep.
Yeah.
It's also probably one of the safest sections, of course. They have an army of volunteers that wear referee jerseys and shirts to make sure that the crowd stays off the course, make sure that all the crossings are safe. And it really is incredible that they're able to safely corral all those people up on Crybaby Hill. They do a great job.
Yeah, it's like their very own crowd control, self-regulated, and it's, oh my God, you can't even hear yourself thinking going up that climb every single time.
And then the way down as well, you get a little piece riding through the neighborhoods before back onto the start-finish stretch. I want to show you what it's like to ride up Crybaby Hill. We have a video from Kerry Warner last year of the Project Echelon racing team who took us on board. So this is the turn right here, and just listen. Really is incredible up on the hills. Closest we're going to get to the Tour de France here in the United States, that's for sure.
It's you know, what's funny is kind of like when you're on the start finish line, there's the family friend zone and the teams are set up with their tents, and then you take the right hand turn towards the hill and you start rising up, and it's kind of like this build up because all those fans filter down to that corner. And then you have another little kicker, and then that's where the like wall of noise comes in, and you know that video doesn't even do it justice because there's so much more to take in, and you know the lap that you take after the race, and you kind of just like absorb it, and everybody's giving you high fives. It's such a cool experience.
Even if you're not a great climber, I mean, even if it's not the day for you, and it's not the day for a lot of riders, because there's a lot of riders in the American criterium scene that just don't do well on a day like that, but it's still one of their favorite races of the year because of the fans, because of the crowd, because of the atmosphere.
I'll tell you another favorite spot of mine, which is a bit more dangerous, is actually the last corner. And I like to sit there as a bike racer. I would like to sit there to kind of know how fast you can actually take the turn and kind of really play out that turn as far as like where to take it, where the apex is, if there's anything in the corner that I need to be aware of, because sometimes there's a manhole cover. But the reason I like it is you do see a lot of people stack it up there. Not that I like crashing, but I do like to see the dynamics and who's really got the gumption to just kind of let that flow through. Another good spot.
Yeah, I was going to say, just watch Danny Summerhill. Just let him teach you how to slide through those corners.
Maybe we should just have him on today too and talk about that.
Well, that is what criterium racing is about. So many times we talk about this hill, you do it 20 times, but ultimately it just comes down to that last corner or the last two turns, especially here in Tulsa. We've had so many close finishes, even on the Crybaby Hill days. There's always a group that seems to stick together. Looks like these riders going to try and jump on the wheel of Godby as she's going to lap up here with Mob. So they have now caught the third and fourth place group with Schumann and Kroom here. Those riders can sit on here. They can try and lock onto this train. So if they want to try and match the wattage of Godby and Mob, try and see what it's like to ride in the front group for a few laps, Schumann and Kroom will be able to do that. But it looks like they've already lost contact here.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't take long to go through somebody, and Godby and Mob should just push on and keep that separation. Just kind of like hammer home, that they're a lap up. Again, so I'm going to pull for Mobs today, Brad. I can't help it. Like, I just want to see what she can do. We saw a glimpse of that a couple weeks ago, and this is it's good to see her up there and taking it to Godby a bit.
Everyone loves a good underdog story, and you're looking at the first pages of that being written right now for Rhea Mobbs. Now she just has to write the ending. 16.5K to go. Picking up just under 300 meters of elevation gain so far. So we're just under halfway through. Don't forget, you can try these courses for yourself in the Echelon Racing League Community Series every week, the week before our Pro Series. Community riders have a chance to race on the very same courses that the pros are going to be using. So this course is now on RGT. We're getting ready to head to the Joe Martin stage race next. You can try that course out now on RGT, but if you want to give racing a shot, if you're inspired by Jackie or Rhea, join us for the Echelon Racing League Community Series. Free to race, and RGT, as always, is free to ride on as well.
And you usually get to ride up against some of these professionals because they usually like to go do the community race just to get some race recon.
Yeah, test yourself against Jackie Godby. First, test yourself against Crybaby Hill, and then you can test yourself against Jackie Godby. I have to imagine this is going to be a great training tool for a lot of riders, especially if you've never been. If this is a first-time visit to a race like Tulsa, being able to survey and recon that climb and that course and just know what that effort's like, make sure you're not going too hard too early in a race like that, that's hugely valuable for riders here on RGT.
Yeah, just to get that shock factor out of your body, because there's so many things that go into real life bike racing. You get the stimulus of the crowd like we're talking about. You've got the weather and the actual, being there and racing side by side with someone. So what better way to kind of like get that one less thing out of your system of knowing exactly how hard the actual course is on your legs and your body. Yeah, that's the Echelon Racing League is really good for that.
Anyone who's ever raced in real life crit knows the constant struggle to try and get a warm-up lap in as well. Riders always want to get on the course. This is a constant battle for me as the announcer to remind riders that the course is closed in between races for the most part, so you don't have to worry about that. You can get your recon in now, so you don't have to try and jump in between the races.
Guilty as charged. I know you've told me this before, so thank you for your patience.
I know you got to see it. I want you to get out there, but we got a tight schedule to run. Staging also important in Tulsa. They have a corral here. If you get a call up, obviously you get on the front row. Doesn't matter as much in virtual racing. There is no grid really that you start on. Everyone has basically the same position up at the front when you get rolling. Aaron Ayala taking in a few snacks here in the bottom left. She went with the Scratch Labs bottle today. I always love checking in on Ayala's setup.
I'm really digging the Beast Mode kit also. I think those are, it's a good classy looking kit, so.
Yeah, very simple, very clean. Starting to see more and more clothing brands dedicate themselves to, well, not dedicate, but dedicate resources to virtual racing. We're starting to see indoor-specific clothing, indoor-specific training gear. So the evolution of virtual racing continues.
Yeah, it's so different than
2020.
being outside because you don't have that wind resistance. You only have essentially a fan, and I think we've seen that with Jackie and her shorts and that setup, and that's something. It's a new field and new opportunities for these brands, like you're saying, and the amount of sweat that happens on the trainer is unbelievable. So, yeah, like we see a lot of these athletes, jersey unzipped and. Just trying to maximize every bit of that fan that they can. So, yeah, this is a new space, and I think it's just going to continue to grow.
You're starting to see bib shorts with pockets and specific nutrition pockets now made for training. It's a whole new world out there. You see Jackie Godby with her Saris setup in the front. She's got the specialized desk made specifically for virtual racing. And of course, plenty of bottles and food, snacks, nutrition up on top as well. Godby is maybe one of the best about staying fueled, keeping her nutrition up, making sure that she's constantly eating and drinking. She posted on her Instagram after last, 2 weeks ago, virtual tour of the Gila, the aftermath of the last stage. Looks like a few gels, 4 bottles on a day like that. So it's important to stay fueled.
Is that 4 gels? Wow, that's impressive. The SIS stuff, that isotonic, goes into your system a bit easier, and it's not just like a concentrate of sugar. Yeah, so
Yeah, it's good.
that's so cool to see, like the dregs and the aftermath of a bike race.
And she really does just toss it down. I mean, it is very much like an in real life bike race where you hit that gel and then there's no time to wrap it up and put it in your pocket. I mean, same when you finish a bottle, you just toss it off to the side. You got to get rid of that. The racing is that intense for Jackie Godby here on RGT. Looks like she's still got 2 bottles left today. Should be plenty.
Good to know that I too am on a Saris, so I feel like I'm amongst legends when I ride my trainer. I want to be like Jackie when I grow up.
Yeah, channeling your inner Jackie Godby, exactly. Well, Mobb's still with Godby on the way down here. This has been a really strong performance from Rhea Mobbs today. I think at this point she's got to be pretty happy with where she is. 12K to go. Starting to think if you made it this far, you can probably hang in for another 12K and at least get a chance to sprint against the GOAT.
Yeah, I sure hope so. I think she was so upset when her internet or whatever dropped out a couple weeks ago. So maybe this is revenge riding too.
See Mobbs with a little bit of play in the bike underneath her. A lot of riders will implement some way, whether it's a rocker board. Some riders just put tennis balls on the bottom of their trainer just to give it a little more side-to-side motion. It's another place that the innovation of bike racing is rapidly changing the trainer space, and then we're also seeing riders on indoor specific bikes as well, not riding their in real life bikes, but now brands are selling these. It's sort of like a fitting bike when you go to a bike fitter and they put you on one of those rigs that has it can change every aspect, every dimension of the bike. The virtual platform makers are starting to develop those now. Mobs out of the saddle here, but not into the red zone. So she's starting to feel it. There's a collective effort that adds up throughout the day. That hill starts to get tougher and tougher. You see how Mobs goes into the red zone a little sooner than Jackie Godby here, maybe jumping a little early. 35 minutes in, you're starting to make mental mistakes here as well, Lauren. This is where you start to focus on just how bad it hurts. You're starting to think about how much pain you're in, how tough it is, and you stop thinking about, okay, I need to make sure I'm drafting. I need to make sure that I'm not doing more watts than I need to. I need to make sure I'm attacking at just the right time on the corner.
Yeah, I was silent there for a minute just because I'm like focused on watching Mobs in the Zoom, and I know there's a bit of a delay, but going up and over Crybaby Hill, and like you're saying, down to the last 10K, and you can see her face is really red. The effort's adding up, and we don't ever see Godby crack, but you see some of these other athletes. Mob's head kind of starts getting a little tilt to it, or she kind of drops her head a bit, starting to rock the shoulders, and those are telltale signs of like it's adding up. But yeah, you don't see that with Godby at all, and so I just like to see the comparison and focus in on that as they're going up these up Crybaby Hill. So I think Mobs is a bit on the rope, to be honest with you.
Mobs is giving it, that's for sure. She is going deep to try to hold on to the Jackie Godby wheel here. Now, this is a rider I would love to see come race Tulsa Tough in real life. She's a British rider in the UK right now, riding from the UK, but would love to have some of these international riders come get a taste of American bike racing here.
Oh, and they love it. Anytime I've had a teammate come over, or for example, Winston-Salem was a big race that a lot of folks would come over, or Redlands, or Gila for that matter. Like they always enjoyed the aspect of host housing, and like we've talked about with all of these races, is the community involvement. That's a little bit different than over in Europe, and you get to get a true sense of the community staying in someone's home, not necessarily in a hotel. So I've never heard of an athlete coming over and having racing is its whole thing, but like just outside of the race, they've never had a bad experience. So, so it's fun to kind of like give them some warm hospitality and show them around, and like our roads are different and our races are different. So yeah, it would be fun to have some of these athletes over for sure.
I got a pitch for you. Virtual host housing. We come into your living room, we set up our trainers, we race on our GT, and then we go home.
Let me think on that one for a bit.
Virtual hosting. Just a thought. We'll workshop it. I'm going to put it on the whiteboard.
Really good internet.
Yeah.
For all those Zooms and all that streaming.
That's right. That's right. Well, Mobs obviously fixed her connection from last week. Whatever the issue was, she's been rock solid. We haven't seen a single dropout, I don't think, from her today. So I don't know if that was a Ethernet cable, or just moving closer to the Wi-Fi router, or just asking the neighbor to move their Wi-Fi router a little closer.
I had a friend that has just gotten his Starlink set up, so maybe she's in on Starlink. Who knows?
As Godby and Mobs stay locked in at about 4 watts per kilo with just under 10K to go. Here's the race for third. Schumann all alone. Doesn't look like Krollman and Ayala going to make it. Up to 550 meters back right now. Probably a little too much to make up over the next 10.6K. So Schumann basically just doing a time trial with a nice interval every 2 minutes over on the right side. And here's her setup from Germany. She's trading crypto in between. I'm not sure what you would use the mouse for. I'm not sure what the riders would need the mouse for in RGT, but maybe using another program or looking at Discord or a chat app, something like that. A lot of riders use the computer for communication as well, be able to talk with their teams.
Or maybe she's fast forwarding to the next great song.
Or maybe she's muting me. Maybe she's hitting mute on the live stream after she heard the virtual host housing idea. That signal made it over to Germany. That was just about the time she was reaching for the mute button.
No, she's probably just focusing, Brad. I mean, she, like you said, she's all by herself, so she just knows that she's got to do these efforts over and over again up the climb, and just to keep that distance from fourth and fifth, and try and limit any losses. But I think, yeah, she's not really looking up the road. She's just going to try and keep wattage, know what's coming around every single time, and recover, as much as possible.
Again, so tough to do these solo efforts. Maybe one of the hardest things in bike racing when you don't have that mental rabbit to chase down in front of you. And it's really just you and your thoughts on the trainer here.
Yeah, but sometimes it may be a little bit easier just to be here solo, because we've talked about the gamesmanship on drafting someone and like that focus and that energy of trying to sit on a wheel, and then you can't correlate those numbers on what you're feeling and sensing, or where you think you are, or where your avatar may be. So this could be more of a, okay, you let the 1 and 2 go up the road, and you can kind of just settle down and just get back into your space and your rhythm, and not have to focus on trying to follow a wheel up a climb. So that's where I'll say that this is kind of a good thing for her, and lucky for her, she can kind of save some of that mental energy for tomorrow as well.
Chrome getting a little bit of space on Ayala here. And then looks like Jansen is locked onto Ayala, a lapped rider, but trying to grab the wheel. Chrome trying to get rid of Ayala here. It's on in the battle for fourth and fifth.
And that's, Chrome needs to, because we've seen Ayala sprint. She comes like a thunderbolt. So Chrome is definitely, if she's going to get a gap in a significant gap, she has to do it kind of now, or at least in the last 5K.
9.4K to go this time around. Chrome preloading for the climb. Gets out of the saddle in the 100 meters before she makes that right-hand turn. Building up a little speed, building up a little power. She knows it's coming.
Sometimes during the first half of this race, I would try and spin as much as I could to, as I've been told, you can only leg press so many times in a day. You can't just push a gear all the time. And so to kind of spin it out and keep that lactic acid as little as build up as possible in your legs. And I wonder if that's the same thing in virtual world, if you can kind of ramp into the climb a little bit and then downshift.
Or maybe even sag climbing, trying to give yourself a little lead before you get onto the climb. But looks like Chrome going to hold on to it on the way down here. Where do you think the best place for Ayala to make up a gap here is? I mean, do you do it on the flats? Do you do it on the start-finish? It's only, let's say, 20 meters right now. So do you do it on the downhill? Do you do it on the flats?
A little bit on the flat and downhill. You try and make a run at her towards the downhill, and then once you make connection on the downhill, totally let off. I think. I mean, I've never raced RGT, but in real life, this is what I have in my mind, is to make that connection on the downhill, so you have as much of a draft as possible going back into Crybaby Hill.
Mob's taking over on the front for a little bit. Short-lived before Godby moves forward. Definitely seems like Godby's doing a little more work here. It seems like Mobs is sitting on Godby in this situation, as one should. I mean, there's absolutely no reason to help Jackie Godby in this situation at all. Any bike racer that's ever raced, this is Cycling 101. Sit on the wheel, the strongest rider here.
Exactly. Again, shark-infested waters. Just sit back, let her do her thing, follow her around. Sometimes that can frustrate them a bit, but at the same time, she has everything to lose and you don't. I mean, like, so it's yeah, you kind of put all the eggs in her basket of like, you're totally in control here. I'm just going to try and follow your wheel.
They
It's
say
like
if you're in
motivation.
shark-infested waters, don't thrash around, right? Just stay calm. Don't attract any of the sharks. Don't show any weakness.
Don't bring out my Lunchables.
Yeah,
Snack
exactly.
pack.
I think that's all Mobs is doing right now, just trying to stay calm. Taking it relatively easy on the flats, 2.8, 2.9 watts per kilo. Relatively speaking, in RGT, those are pretty low numbers. So I think they are letting off on the flat here a little bit, taking the chance to rest, to recover here.
Yeah, now we're looking at the last 5K, so there's no resting on Crybaby Hill, so you have to push up and over that, and then try and use the start finish and that back straight just to conserve, because now we're getting ready for the sprint. Now as Mobs and Godby, you got to get ready for that last punch, and one of these, I imagine Godby is going to punch it at least like 2 laps to go, or the last lap, and just try and make that separation from Mobs. So yeah, like both of them are probably conserving some sort of energy right now as much as possible.
We're also going to get a look at Mob's finishing kick. Maybe she's got an Ayala-like kick on the line that can beat Jackie Godby. We don't know how Mob's finishes on RGT. Jackie Godby is a good finisher, but not a great finisher. Like, I wouldn't call her one of the best virtual sprinters out there. There's a few other riders that can finish stronger with a shorter, more powerful burst at the finish. Jackie Godby is a long range, the intercontinental ballistic missile of cycling.
I would love to see Ayala and Godby go head to head just to kind of see how that compares. But you're right, like Godby's got this slow wind up, but then when she can just hold this effort for so long and so strong that, even if Mobs is on her wheel, it's just, you just can only follow so hard for so much. So it's kind of demoralizing.
Godby and Mob's going to go down under 4K through the line here. And to see Jackie Godby holding this at 2.9 watts per kilo, that is she's holding the horses back in this scenario. Godby can do a lot stronger than that. Mobs as well. They could be riding at 4, 5, 6 watts per kilo on the flat here, but they're choosing not to. They're choosing to ride at 3 watts per kilo. So that is a conscious decision, and I think it's Jackie Godby trying to recover before the start here.
And almost like doing efforts. It's like on Crybaby Hill, you're on. It's like a 30-second on, 30-second off. Except it's more like 30, 40-second on and maybe like 40, 50 seconds off. I don't know. But, again, that's another part of training that could help her towards getting ready for World Championships too.
A lot of riders aren't trained for criteriums. That the constant effort that you talked about, on again, off again, it's interval riding essentially. And if you're not training that way or riding that way, if you're out doing 6-hour endurance rides every day, you're just doing long 100-mile days, you're not going to do well at Tulsa Tough, because you need to train that body up to be able to do those short, fast efforts, to respond quickly, and to be able to do it 50, 60, 100 times in an hour.
It adds up. And when this kind of stimulus as an athlete, you're like, oh, that wasn't too bad of a race. And then you step off the bike, you're like, whoa, you can barely stand up. Your legs are just blown.
See Mob's gripping the tops a little tighter, getting ready for what she knows is coming. Usually when the riders are in the top section here, that usually means easier riding to me. From an outsider perspective, that kind of seems like the more relaxed position when you're spinning, getting ready for something bigger coming up.
Yeah, just changing it up and shaking out the shoulders. And yeah, they've had pretty active day-to-day moving all over the bikes, as we've seen, because again, we've talked about Godby never stands up, and I would think that almost every time we've seen her on Zoom, she's been standing up and sitting.
Yep. Yeah, that tells you something about this course, because there aren't many climbs that get Jackie Godby out of the saddle, but this is one of them. Down to 2.5K. Mobs into the red zone. Godby let up a little bit, and Mobs took advantage of it. You saw Jackie Godby was in the orange power zone there very briefly. Mobs went early and said, hey, if you're feeling weak, I'm going to try and attack. So Ray Mobs on the attack here.
Maybe just a little test also, and just kind of see if there can be any separation and how fast it happens. And again, like I said, I think Godby's probably going to go on Crybaby Hill in these last couple of laps and just kind of hold that power all the way to the finish. So, you know, you got to wonder if Mobs is kind of testing that just a little bit.
Godby going to pay it off on the backside on the way down. She makes that gap up easy on the way back. Catching up, just caught Ayala coming up on Chrome now. And then we'll see if they catch Schumann before the finish here as well. There's 2K to go. They'll get the bell for the final lap of racing next time they go under our arch. Mobs has done the work. She stayed with Godby, and now it's just about that finishing kick. Downhill section, very good for Jackie Godby, though. We talked about the power to weight ratio. Godby excels on the way down, so she's going to be able to use that run into the last turn to her advantage. Mobs needs to sit on there, but it's just long enough that Mobs will be able to sprint out of that last corner and try and get there. Using the physics of RGT is going to be crucial in the final corner as well, making sure you're not wasting any power on the way down because you have that downhill. There's the bell for one lap to go. The last ronda of racing here at the virtual Tulsa Tough.
Nice addition.
Sort of the preload to the climb here before the sharp right-hander. Godby goes much earlier this time. She didn't hit it until about right now. She went in the red zone last time through, but she hit it from the bottom of that time. That was why Mobs was able to pass her last time through, and now Mobs going to try and put it in on the final climb up. No gaps, up and over. So this will come down to a sprint out of that last corner. Godby and Mobs.
Hey, Brad, no matter what happens today, what a great ride by Mobs. One of the only people that can stay with Godby all day. So this is, either way, she's had a good day today.
Going to be really interesting tomorrow as well. The Echelon Racing League heads to Glen Ellen for the Intelligentsia Cup, another criterium. Into our final couple corners here with just about 600 meters to go. And both riders already into the red zone. Little uncharacteristic of both of these riders to go this far off from 500 meters back to go into the red zone, maybe just trying to get over that little bump on the course. They made it over safely into 400 meters to go. Mob's still there. Going to be a little bit of traffic up ahead. There might be a little draft to be had for the rider on the front. It's not as much as the draft for the lead riders, but there is a little draft for lapped riders. Godby might know that. Looks like she's trying to get there. 200 meters. Here comes Mobs up the left side. Big jump from Mobs. And now Godby has to respond. She does. Goes over the top at 75 meters. And Jackie Godby picks up another one in the Echelon Racing League. Your sprint winner on Tulsa Tough's Crybaby Hill.
You couldn't see it, but I was pretty animated back here pulling for Mobs. That was so close. What a great sprint by her, and to really kind of stick it to Godby, and just what a response by Godby. I mean, gosh, what can't she do?
I love the back and forth sprinting on RGT as well. Watching Mobs go, then Godby comes over the top. Mobs goes again, and then it was the final surge from Jackie Godby that tallies another victory for her in the Echelon Racing League. Mob's going to be in for second, and then it looks like Schumann should hold on for third here. The Rose Beast Mode rider did her work early on, and will finish solo on the podium here in third.
Yeah, Schumann started out with Ayala, and Ayala was up there, and I think Ayala just started to fade just on Crybaby Hill, and Schumann's able to just kind of push up and over that hill and then sustain power throughout the day. So, yeah, good ride by Schumann, probably coming in third. Good result for the team, especially after everything they've been through.
Yeah, and then we're going to be in for a good battle behind them. Looks like Chrome and Ayala going to finish pretty close together. Chrome got a little gap on Ayala over the last kilometer or two. So Schumann on the way in here. She's got to be thinking, what if I stayed with that group? I'm sure she'll make some changes heading into the tour of Lake Ellen tomorrow, part of the Intelligentsia Cup, another criterium, but a lot of ups and downs on that course. It's a rolling, longer course. Still a criterium or sort of a circuit tomorrow, but maybe better for Schumann. So it'll be interesting to see if maybe we get a group of 3 at the front of tomorrow's race.
Yeah, Crybaby Hill and Tulsa Tough. I mean, this race is such a sharp effort, and yeah, so you kind of hope that you can lick your wounds and come back tomorrow and maybe roll out and stick it out with the front group a little bit longer. Hoping that you don't have something like Crybaby Hill straight out the gate.
Schumann, last time up. In her last K, and again, just looking at the power here, looking at the performance throughout the day today, Schumann did the work that she had to get rid of Ayala and Nelson, Chrome. But she's got to be thinking about looking at things to improve on.
Yeah, and I mean, just maybe today just isn't her type of course. It's, maybe she needs something a little bit longer, not as steep and aggressive. Some of those steep climbs for someone that's a bit smaller in size is so hard to follow. And, you think how easy it is for someone to descend, and it's, again, a smaller person trying to follow that. It's just like that much power. Like sometimes it's even though it's a climb, like being a smaller individual doesn't help you at all. So that's Crybaby Hill is definitely a power climb. I would classify.
Yeah, it's not really long enough to take advantage of a power to weight advantage on the way up. It really is just more of putting out as many watts as you can for you said maybe 20-25 seconds, something like that on the way up.
Yeah.
Schumann wrapping things up here at 250 meters on the way in. Looks like Chrome will hold on for 4th, and Ayala should be good for 5th, the way things stand right now. Don't see many changes happening inside our top 5. So Schumann rolling in for 3rd will finish out our podium. And that means it's time to go to our Tailwind post-race winners interview. We've got Jackie Godby in Zoom with Emma.
Brad, I'm here in the Zoom room with our winner for today, Jackie Godby. Jackie, one of the biggest characteristics of this Tulsa Tough race is Crybaby Hill. Can you talk to me a little bit about that hill?
So, one, I was reading the history on it last night. I love it. I really love the bike culture. I love the fact that we've brought that into virtual racing. And knowing that it was called Crybaby Hill, each one of those 25 times I went up, I was just thinking to myself, don't cry, don't cry. That sweat on your face, not tears. And it just knowing that history helped me be a little bit mentally tougher, getting into the scene, getting into that mindset today. So that was a lot of fun.
Coming off of a couple of weekends ago with the last race, there was a long hill, but it was more consistent. This one is in a crit format. Did that change your strategy at all with approaching the climbing portion of the race?
So, when I'm going into a long hill, if it's going to be, that 8-minute, that 15-minute hill, I'm going to be racing myself. I know that I can't burn matches early. If you're 90 seconds in to that 15-minute hill and you go too hard, you're paying for it for the next 13 and a half minutes. But today, when you get that crit style, when you get to go again and again and again, and make mistakes, you get the opportunity to race not just yourself, but also the course, today specifically the infamous Crybaby Hill, as you mentioned earlier, but you also get to trade off with your competitors. So today, Mobs and I were going back and forth, trying to lose each other the hill both times, trying different strategies, really gauging the other person out of the corner of their eye and saying, I'm tired. If I take a break on this hill, are you going to take a break with me? Are we going to cooperate? Are you going to try to drop me? So, these shorter crit formats really add a lot more, I want to say, interpersonal strategy than some of those longer hills.
Yeah, definitely. And like you said before, Tulsa Tough is also a race in real life. And we're wondering, are you going to be racing this in real life this year?
We will see. So at the end of this year, I will actually be moving from California out to St. Louis to start my radiology residency. And, John and I have already started talking. What does that mean? So for sure, we are planning to come and do the Gateway Cup in St. Louis because we'll be there. And we'll see about other races as residency unfolds, as our schedules become more predictable.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jackie, and congratulations on your win. Brad, Lauren, back to you.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Welcome back. Jackie Godby's collection of wins in the Echelon Racing League continuing to grow as we have just wrapped up our pro women's race. Godby wrapping it up in 52.48 for an average 4.47 watts per kilo. Rhea Mobbs ends up second, just less than a half second down on Jackie on the line. And then Gabrielle Schumann comes in at about 4 minutes back with Lisa Krom into fourth and Erin Ayala in fifth. Once again, Jackie Godby efficient as ever.
A great sprint finish, but yeah, she's unbeatable, Brad. I don't know what else to say at this point, this far into the season. And I really appreciate that she does her history on the bike race, and then to cap it off with knowing a little bit of insider knowledge that they're going to be moving to St. Louis. So I don't know if you knew that, but I thought that was pretty big news today.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing her in some in-real-life races into 2022. Back to our live racing on course. Our pro men have just gotten underway. You're looking at the front group from up above right now. Here are some of the riders in that group. You can see relatively calm for most of them right now. Nobody has really hit out on the front. I say relatively calm. Everybody except Matt Usborne in the upper left corner looks relatively calm. He looks concerned. Well, and this is why, because he's solo off the front. This makes a lot more sense now.
He just needs to put his pit vipers on, and he'll look cool as a cucumber. So.
He looks like he's trying to read Jackie Godby's dissertation. He looks like he's trying to understand peptide bonding right now. That's what I looked like when I was 6 pages into that thing. Well, Usborne leading the way of this group of let's see, about 8, 9 riders. Yeah, I think we can call it 8 in this group. You see the 100-meter gap back to Travis Samuel in 9th. So we'll say 8 guys clear here with Nair, Yeager, Thomas, Usborne, Bouchard Hall, Roca, Hardin, and Emmerich. Your 8 here.
You know who I think is going to have a tough day today and just some really hard efforts over and over? Kevin Bouchard Hall. Again, we were talking about being a lighter individual and how much harder that is to go up and over something like Crybaby Hill. So these guys are definitely going to stick it to him today just based on their power to weight. So I think he's going to have a pretty tough day today.
Well, Bouchard Hall going to have a big old target on his back after the win last week at the virtual Tour of the Gila, week 3 of the Echelon Racing League, where, again, much different racing in week 3. We had a lot of ups and downs in Gila, a lot of climbing, but Bouchard Hall was consistent every day. He was unstoppable, and then the final stage comes down to 3 riders in a breakaway with Jordan Shane, his teammate Jaden Yeager, and then Kevin Bouchard Hall just sprinting out of the group in the last 200 meters. Really a tough day of racing with Jordan Shane in that group. He had his teammate Yeager there. They had to work Shane over all day long, and then the finishing kick for Kevin Bouchard Hall not only wins him the last day, but also secures his GC in the virtual Tour of the Gila. So Bouchard Hall going to be riding high coming into the week this week. You see Shane and Yeager finish just a few seconds behind. There'll be 2 to watch today as well on the climb. But a cracked Kevin Bouchard Hall last week. We saw sweat dripping off of him in his riding setup. The window to the right really highlights the sweat coming off of Kevin. Ends the GC at 3:51.58. Pretty significant lead over his teammate Jaden Yeager in second. And Jordan Shane ends up second place on the day, on the final day, and third place overall with a 3-hour, 53-minute, and 19-second effort for the virtual Tour of the Gila. British rider Ben Thomas in fourth place overall. He is back in the front group along with Zach Nair, fifth place at virtual Tour of the Gila, up in this front group of 8 today as well. There is Kevin this week with the same setup. Got the coffee cup, maybe tea, got the hat going. He's had a couple different hats that we've seen him using, and then I'm trying to figure out what the package down to the bottom right of our screen is, down to his left. Is that a bag of potatoes? Ah, maybe a sandbag. I see 50 on there. I think it's a 50-pound sandbag. Yeah, he's got them on either side of the trainer. He's using them to weigh it down. What he's doing is stabilizing that rear trainer. This guy is too powerful for even the most powerful trainers.
You know, what's funny is when we saw the zoom of him just like hanging his head over the bars, like, hey man, you got to step it up. Like Godby she just starts soft pedaling and then starts downloading her data. Like, I don't know what the big deal is here. It's not like you're going that hard. I'm just teasing.
I'm not. Jackie Godby is another level.
She is.
Be more like Jackie.
Yeah, no doubt.
Well, interesting addition to the setup here, but I can see why. If you had that moving around, that could move a pretty significant amount. You know, it just move a little bit every time you got out of the saddle, especially if you're standing up a lot on the trainer. That's where, because you're picking up your feet a lot more when you stand and climb, things like that. So maybe with the heavy resistance on today's course, because the trainers will automatically adjust the resistance, maybe the addition of the resistance requires the addition of the sandbag. Coffee in the middle of the race. I thought it was water. That is Gotta be hot coffee. He's got the carafe, tops it off. It might be tea. No, that looks like coffee to me.
That's good. That's golden. We'll have to ask after
What
the
a
race. But yeah, going back to the sandbags, like you said, like every pedal stroke, every efficiency, all of that counts towards moving forward. And yeah, I mean, I'm sure last weekend or 2 weeks ago when he was going up that climb, like that's the last thing you want to feel is that you're losing watts to your trainer moving back and forth.
Well, now leading a larger group. Looks like more riders have come up to join what was that front group of 8. Remember, we had some separation back to 9th place, but now at least 11 riders have made it in. I think it's probably more like 13. There are the sandbags. Great job by our production crew behind the scenes.
I love our zoom in capabilities here.
Little cross training as well, setting that up. Most cyclists are not known for their upper body strength, let's say. I would have loved to have gotten a video of him hauling those things into the room and get up. Imagine trying to explain as you're walking through the house with a 50-pound sandbag where you're going. Like, why are you taking a sandbag into the office? Don't worry about it.
Don't worry, honey. You'll appreciate that it's not bouncing all over,
Yeah.
making all kinds of racket.
Emmerich putting in a little effort on the front here. The German rider taking Matt Usborn with him. And then, sure enough, Kevin Bouchard-Hall sitting in third right behind him, leading the charge to respond. But Emmerich definitely putting the hurt on these guys. Now, Beast Mode can do it today. They have a huge roster of both pro women's and pro men's riders in the Echelon Racing League. We saw this last week with Restart, where Bouchard Hall and Jaeger both got into that breakaway. Restart does it a lot. Above and Beyond Cancer does it a lot. And I'm wondering if we're going to start seeing Beast Mode Rose do it more, because they've got the numbers, they've got the roster, and maybe learning a little more about racing here on RGT. So you can absolutely use your strength and numbers to your advantage on RGT. I mean, you can send riders up the road. You can force other guys to chase. We've seen it a lot, especially when you have bigger teams coming into play. So Beast Mode Rose may be looking for that today in our men's race.
Right. You're just kind of stacking the field and just, like you said, based on numbers and opportunities, that surely at some point somebody's going to be there on the wheel of someone attacking. So, yeah, you want to get up the road and you want to represent, and when it's not your turn, you can kind of sit back in the group and relax and let your teammate take you up the road. And when you've got that many people in the peloton, it helps a ton just to kind of spread that load around to everybody. I feel like Matt Usborn is kind of pushing this pace and forcing this break a bit. And it'll be interesting to see if you can keep a breakaway established on this course.
Yeah, it's going to require a lot of cooperation among the group if they're going to get it right, because it's so easy to fall apart on the climb with the Crybaby Hill in the course today. Everyone really needs to be on the same page. These guys are probably pretty happy with this situation. I like it because there's no teammates up here in this split. I think everybody is on their own. We talked about that situation with Jordan Shane last week being outnumbered by the Restart Racing guys, but looks like everybody is by themselves. 6 riders in this group with Project Echelon, Beast Mode, Above and Beyond Cancer, Restart, and Team Tour 2000 represented. Roca from the Gotham Sports team rounding out the 6th rider in the group. Interesting to see Jaden Yeager has missed it, 90 meters back, leading the chase group behind. But again, with Kevin Bouchard Hall in the breakaway, I have to think that this is a a bit of strategy here from Restart, because Jaden Yeager could absolutely close a 65-meter gap to these guys if he wanted to. He could go into that red zone. He could be in this group in about 15 seconds, but he's choosing not to. So that tells me that maybe Yeager is happy with the situation here. He thinks Kevin Bouchard-Hall can finish this one off for Restart Racing.
Yeah, I totally agree, Brad. And we start looking at that separation, and I think that you have kind of honed in on the fact that once you get to like 150, 160 meters, that separation does start to happen, but it's creeping out a bit. But we've also seen historically is that when it's just this close, it comes back, and maybe it's early enough in the race that it does come back. But you have someone like Kevin up there going to be pushing the pace every single time around up Crybaby Hill, so it's going to be extremely hard for someone to either bridge across or to close the gap.
Well, coming up on halfway through, so this one going to get a whole lot harder and a whole lot faster in the second half, I think. Bouchard-Hall opens up about 30 meters, on the way up. And I'm going to guess that's how he wants to do it. I think Kevin's method is just making this race as hard as he can. He really seems to like to drive the pace. He's not a great finisher, but he's a good finisher. So if he can get it down to like maybe 3 or 4 riders in this scenario, he likes his chances a lot better, I think. So I'm wondering if that's what he's doing right now, just trying to wear him thin and wear him out here.
And just stay on the pedals, whereas you'll see some of the other riders maybe want to just let off on the downhill because Crybaby Hill is so hard, and where Kevin just has that ability to have that sustained power. Like he can go into the red zone in Crybaby Hill, but then can kind of sustain that effort. And, the thing is like, how long can you sustain that effort? You can't do that for, over an hour. Of like Godby's even saying how hard that was to do those efforts over and over and over again. So, but, Kevin may be strong enough to, and like you're saying, training for Worlds, to just stay on the pedals and just pushing through all of this.
Look at the effort for Oosborn up and over the climb. Yeah, you brought up a good point with Worlds and Nationals. A lot of these riders are preparing for their virtual season. We're about midway through the virtual season here, so you also have to think about when you're peaking, when your targets are, which races you're going to be targeting. So for riders that are targeting the National Championships coming up February 20th here in the United States, and then World Championships a little bit after, targeting may be important there. So as these guys continue in the front group, let's go check in on our para and hand cycling competitions out on course. This is Joe Bernier back at the front of our paracycling race for the Athletes by Design squad, the ABD team out of Chicago. We watched Joe out there last week in our virtual Tulsa Tough, and good to see him back this week, or virtual Tour of the Gila, back this week with virtual Tulsa Tough. Little wave from Joe, the celebration. He knows he's got it. This is why we love Joe Bernier. He even figures out how to make the post up in RGT from 200 meters out. He's making sure he's got the pictures ready to go. I love it.
I love it. That is so good.
So Joe Bernier, by the way, on Instagram, his social media handles is Lefty. He is an amputee in his right arm, so he's missing his right arm. I think the left-hand wave may have something to do with his Lefty name. So good to see Lefty, Joe Bernier, getting a win here in the Echelon Racing League. Congratulations, Joe. Over to our hand cycling. This is Sander Koeman at the front of our hand cycling competition. Looks like Mika Art in there as well. So nice to see a few more riders joining us in the hand cycling competition this week. But Koeman has been probably the most consistent hand cyclist here in the Echelon Racing League over the last 4 weeks of racing.
Yeah, agreed, Brad. We've seen him time and time again, and been there at the front every single week.
And there is Koeman heading into his last kilometer of racing here. I love the video in the game, almost matching up pedal stroke for pedal stroke. They did a really good job with the RPM of the game. And of course, the addition of the hand cycles into the game on RGT, a big part of Project Echelon's mission, working with Paralyzed Veterans of America to allow paracyclists to have bikes that better represent them. I can only imagine what this is like. A hand cycle up Crybaby Hill, brutal. This guy is the real deal. Sander is no joke.
You can definitely see the
Oy,
toll
oy,
it's
oy.
taken too, right? Like, look at
Yeah.
his face. Like,
Yeah.
just one more time, get over that hill and try and coast into that downhill.
Climbing on a hand cycle, one of the hardest things that you can do. And Koeman, just to sign up for this one today, knowing that you've got this hill on the course. Climbing usually not a favorite of hand cycling athletes, but you got to conquer what comes your way. So Sander Koeman doing a great job out there today. He did have a little bit of challenge from Art behind him. Art was had gotten up to about 200 meters, so he was closing the gap, but looks like that will go back out the other way. That may have something just to do with the course profile, with Koeman on an uphill while Art was on a downhill. So I think that's going to normalize out to about 350 meters, the gap here for Sander Koeman.
Yeah, you want to talk about something that'll mess with your mind, is knowing as you run into the climb and you can see that person up the road, and you're like, oh, I'm so close. And then you realize why they're going so slow, because all of a sudden you're matching that speed and you're like, oh, I'm not close at all.
That's deceptive. And same thing with RGT. Having that real life course built onto the game really changes the way the race plays out, because obviously you're looking up the road and, of course, looking up Crybaby Hill at those riders. Koeman inside his last 400 meters, bombing down at the last corner right now before he'll make it onto the start-finish stretch. And, man, I can only imagine what this feeling is like in real life or virtually. That last little stretch coming down off that final time, knowing that you don't have to go back up Crybaby Hill again unless you want to, unless you're going up for a drink.
It is a very nice feeling to know that the finish is right in front of you. And
I know a lot of riders will go after to get the shower. They'll spray them down with the hose, try and cool off a little bit afterwards, and it's usually pretty hot in the middle of the summer when we go to visit Tulsa. All right, Koeman wrapping up, winning our hand cycling competition. Bernier, your winner in the paracycling competition. We're going to take another quick break here in the Echelon Racing League. When we come back, Pro Men finishing up.
Come on, move. Of course, there aren't any spots. A few minutes won't hurt anybody. Thanks, Grandma.
Paralyzed Veterans of America works tirelessly every day to create a more accessible America. Let's leave the accessible spaces to the people who actually need them. Whatever the reason, excuses don't excuse. Join PVA and be part of the solution. Honor the spot.
Pro men on course here in the virtual Tulsa Tough. Emmerich rolling off the front while we were in break, picking up about a 60-meter gap over Matt Usborne and Ben Thomas behind him. Although shouldn't be much to worry about. Usborne, Bouchard, Hall, Yeager, all up there at the front. They should have no problem bringing Emmerich back here. But respect the hustle, trying to test things out here at 10K to go, trying to feel things out in this front group. It's about 12, actually down to 8 now in this front group. Roca, the last one sliding in there. So really now just trying to figure out how you get the best result out of this group of 8.
Yeah, and Emmerich doesn't have any teammates in that chase group. You know, maybe this is just the best choice that they can make at this time. But, you know, we were talking about kind of stacking the field with a bunch of your teammates. But, you know, if you go off the front from the already breakaway group, it kind of like negates everything of having all these teammates in the race. But, you know, like you said, respect the hustle and give it a go.
Yeah, Hatz is the next teammate that Emmerich has sitting in 9th position. He's the first rider in the second group on course. So he's not going to get any help today. They are, this selection has been made, and I don't know if it comes back here with 9.4K to go. I think if you're in this front group of 8 right now, you're feeling pretty good about this scenario. You think, let's try and roll this. Let's try and keep it going. It's just a matter of trying to figure out who the best sprinters in this group are. They're picking up some lap traffic here. You see Gonzalez getting caught. They're going to work through a pretty chaotic situation out there. This one is really blown up with a big field in our pro men's race, but Emmerich going to separate things out pretty early. This guy clearly wants to turn the screws today.
And again, you know, we go back to saying that there were no teammates up there, but now we've got Yeager up there with Bouchard Hall. So,
yeah,
you know, that's a dynamic that's changed since we took a break. But so, you know, this is good for those guys, and everybody else is going to try and take it to them, I would think, and try and separate some things back down and whittle it down to a smaller group.
Project Echelon is the only other team that has 2 riders in this breakaway. They've got Hardin and Nair up here. So Restart and Project Echelon both in a good position with a pair of riders in this front group. How well you can use them, though, remains to be seen. You see Jaden Yeager up at the front here, just trying to position, make sure he doesn't get caught, doesn't get left behind. Now remember, Bouchard Hall moving into the overall series lead in the Echelon Racing League after his virtual Tour of the Gila win as well, winning the GC there. And that put Brad Bickley up into the top of our pro men's standings. With Zach Nair into second, Jaden Yeager in third. This really shows you how important consistency is, because you look at a rider like Bickley who has only had, I think, 1 win so far in the Echelon Racing League, but there every week. A rider like Kevin Bouchard Hall, though, if he doesn't have those consistent top 3 or top 5 results, that's what knocks him down in the overall series standing. So you see Bouchard Hall into 6th place overall. Matt Usborne in 7th place overall. He dropped down significantly in week 3 after a mechanical at the virtual Tour of the Gila. We saw a heartbreaking miss from him. Had the mechanical. That also took him out of the stage race. So virtual Tour of the Gila was really tough for Usborne. He's back for revenge here at virtual Tulsa Tough.
As he should be. Yeah, it's in Tulsa, this is kind of a good race for him, like that hard, quick, sharp effort, and then just sustained power over the back half of the course.
Coming up on 7K of racing to go. It is starting to string out here on the way down. Usborne staying on the power for the most part, but he does let up on the downhill section. This is sort of the second half of Crybaby Hill that they're on right now, the orange section of the elevation profile, before it really starts descending into the deeper blue. So really the only tell I've seen so far today, Lauren, is Emmerich. That's the only sort of insight that I've been able to glean, and that Emmerich doesn't want to sprint against these guys. I think Emmerich showed his cards early that he was trying to split this group.
Yeah, I'm just trying to look at just the dynamics of this group and who I would think. I picked someone like Usborne or Yeager or Hardin, someone that's a bit of a bigger guy that's this course is going to favor, I would almost say. That effort is short enough that they can recover and have the power to take it into that last corner, in my honest opinion. Someone like Kevin Bouchard Hall, just off of sheer strength, again, would he go 2 laps early and just try and drop all these guys on Crybaby Hill and sustain for, a couple of K? I don't know.
I got to think there's at least one rider in here who will try to jump early, because I don't think anyone wants to sprint against either of these two guys. Nobody wants to go against Usborne in a sprint. No one wants to try to take Kevin Bouchard Hall to the line. So there have to be at least a few riders in that group of 8 thinking, how can I get rid of these two guys? How am I going to beat these two monsters?
We have a low battery with someone over there in the Zoom. Uh-oh.
That could be concerning for certain riders. I'm sure they'll get that plugged in. They'll get it sorted out. Meanwhile, Jaeger back up to the front here. But really haven't seen an effort to split it. Aside from Emmerich trying like 3 times in a row up Crybaby Hill to no result, I don't think anyone else has really tried to split it yet. So we'll see if that happens. 6K to go. Still a little early maybe to try and drop the group. Yeah, there's a good chance that you get brought back in 6K to go.
Yeah.
Ryder celebrating getting caught by the front group there with the post up on screen.
Oh, you got to love it. And, again, looking at who's in this group, Project Echelon also has 2 guys. So that dynamic, you can race teammates against teammates like that because of just numbers. And some others will use that to their advantage. Those 1s and 2s will just try and follow and be like, hey, man, you got 2 people up here. I'm not going to do that work. This is your job. So, this is going to come down to some pretty aggressive couple of K here at the finish.
I have a feeling it's a little tougher to use a teammate on this criterium than we're making it out to be. It's easy to say, just go attack, send someone up the road. But if it were that easy, Restart or Project Echelon would have already done it. Those are both teams that have a lot of experience on the virtual platforms. They know racing well. I mean, if it were that easy to just split the group like that, then one of those 2 teams would have already done it.
No, it's not. Wow. I thought it was that easy. I'm just kidding.
For you, it is. But these are mere mortals that we're talking about here.
No, these guys are some of the best in the business. I don't want to discount them at all, but just cracking jokes. I mean, you're right. Like, it's so hard that the gamesmanship with RGT, it is hard to just send someone up the road and look at others like you do in real life. But this is kind of just attrition racing here, just over and over and over, punching in the gut. This is a brutal day.
Jaeger comes over the top of Usborne on the way down. Then here goes Emmerich, the omnipresent aggressor at the front on Crybaby Hill. Maybe just looking for the best photos on Crybaby Hill. There's always a lot of photographers on there. I know we're going to have Tammy Brimner out there, TLB Velo, our official photographer of the Echelon Racing League. So maybe just want some pictures to put on the old Instagram.
That's what he wants. That's it.
That's the virtual equivalent
NFT,
of a TV breakaway. Exactly. Ben Thomas from Team Tour 2000 has a couple teammates back in the front group. They just went past Stephen Jones, swallowing him up. Saw Charlie Revel earlier, Alex Pleger, Mike Lister, and Andy Davenport also on that squad. But Thomas, the only guy to make this selection, so he'll be flying the flag for Team Tour 2000 with 4K to go.
Do you have a pick yet? I mean, you've been pretty good at kind of nailing down these finishes. I would love to hear your thoughts on this finish.
Man, I think I'm going to take Kevin Bouchard Hall again. I think he's got the finishing kick. I just think he's got it figured out. I think he's on fire right now. And I think Jaden Jaeger is going to ride for him. I think they've gone all in on Bouchard Hall here in the Echelon Racing League. So I think it seems like Jaeger has been riding in a support role of Kevin Bouchard Hall over the last few weeks. So we'll see. Total guess, but that's the beauty of virtual racing.
Yeah, well, I just like to hear, and that's pretty darn good guess.
Sandbag power. That's what I'm counting on. The power of the sandbags.
Infinite things that we can talk about now with this. This is so good.
Yeah, there are no higher categories for Bouchard Hall to graduate into, so we can't call him a sandbagger because he's riding at the highest level possible. Bouchard Hall also going to be representing us at the World Championships. He'll be racing the National Championships coming up as well on RGT, so one of the bigger names in virtual racing out there right now. A little bit of a gap back to 8th. Some riders starting to get gapped off here. Oosborn grabbing the last drinks. Looks pretty calm. He looks to be in good shape.
Okay, huh. In your eyes, interesting.
His mouth was closed for like 2 seconds, which is more than we usually get.
I think he's slightly regurgitating everything he's putting down his pie hole right now. This is a hard day.
This is where you start to feel it. This is where the efforts start to kick in. Look at both guys getting out of the saddle. Bouchard Hall on top. Both respond at the exact same time as they approach Crybaby Hill. Look from up top, Ben Thomas going to lead him around that corner. Looks like they have dropped one out of the group. I see 7 at the back. Oh, no. There are 8 there. It's Charlie Revel, I saw. Lapped rider coming unglued. Teammate of Ben Thomas. Here goes Jaeger right over the top. Yeah, so Jaeger going to attack from 2.2K out here. This is exactly what we were talking about with Restart. These are team tactics happening right now. They knew where Jaeger was going to go. They knew when they wanted to do it, and it was right here at just over 2K to go. So Jaeger, the first to hit out for Restart Racing here.
Well, this is going to be a heck of a follow for anybody else to try and close this gap.
Yeah. Now look at the riders chasing. You see Thomas, Emmerich, Nair. Those are all the guys that are doing the effort on the front. And then Kevin Bouchard Hall should just be sitting right in there, drafting off those guys, letting them drag him up to his teammate, Jaden Jaeger. This is a win-win situation for Restart. Either Jaden Jaeger stays away and wins, or these guys use effort chasing Jaeger down. And then Bouchard Hall can finish with his sprint. 1.6K to go. He's got about 35 meters over the group. This would be huge if Jaeger did this from 2K out and held on.
That final kick over Crybaby Hill is going to be the test. Like, if they can't bring that back then.
Gap growing up to 70 meters now for Jaeger.
Oh, this is so good.
Jaeger going deep here as well.
And he's a time trialist. Like, yeah, why wouldn't he be able to hold this power all the way through?
Back out of the saddle. Got the sparkling water ready to go. Apparently he has exited the Koozie Club from week 3 of the Echelon Racing League. But now Jaeger opens up a 100-meter gap. I think he's going to hold on to this.
I think so too. Yeah. Strong performance.
Wow. Jaeger laid it out from 2K out. And he's going to hold on here to probably win by over 100 meters here. This was a massive effort from Jaden Jaeger. The riders back in the field in 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th position, they definitely underestimated Jaden on this one. They thought, you know what, he's coming back. This is just a setup for Kevin Bouchard Hall. Nothing to worry about. I'm not going to chase. And now they're paying for it as Jaden Jaeger goes inside 200 meters. He will not only win on Crybaby Hill here at Virtual Tulsa Tough, this guy just dominated this field.
Yes, he did. Oh my God, Brad, that was a heck of an attack, and to have that separation so fast and then to sustain it for a whole other lap, that's an impressive day.
Race for 2nd coming behind him. Looks like Emmerich gonna lead it out.
a good finish for Usborne if he finished third. And Emerlin, like you said, like he had been attacking the last half of the entire race, so that's a good result for him to come back through, if that was the result.
Yeah, Feka held on for second. Very impressive after the attacking that he did on the front. Jaeger wiping down some of the sweat of a successful effort as we go back to the race for 9th place here. Hat's going to jump out of the group at the bottom of the climb. All three of these riders into the red zone here for their last 600 meters of riding. Hat's doing 10 watts per kilo up on the front right now. That very quickly drops down to 7, but hit a nice peak.
That's a full-out sprint.
The downhill run as well. Persky there into 11th spot, as looks like Hayden Warner going to pull away. So Hats, will he hold on? Yeah, for 9th, Hayden Warner going to have to settle for 10th on the day, rounding out our top 10. Persky will be in for 11th. And then looks like Blazovic and Ridenour will be behind them.
I would have put Hodges way further up in the standings, but I don't know. Maybe he's having an off day today.
Yeah, never know in virtual racing. Could have been a connection issue. Could just be a
true
behind-the-scenes issue. We talked about the consistency of being able to come in every week and perform in the Echelon Racing League when pretty much every rider in this field has a life outside of bike racing, and to be able to keep that life out of your training life is really impressive. So riders like Jaden Jaeger coming back week after week in the Echelon Racing League, as Jaden gets a big win today with 4.6 watts per kilo. You see Usborne down in third for the Above and Beyond Cancer team. Emmerich held on for second. Great ride for the German today from the Beast Mode presented by Rose team. And then Ben Thomas out of the UK in fourth, and Zach Nair, second American, into fifth for Project Echelon Racing. So Jaden Jaeger really played that one perfectly. I mean, this couldn't have gone any better for Jaeger. That's how that guy wins. I mean, he's a diesel engine. He likes the long-range attacks.
Yeah, and you got to think if Emmerich would have kind of conserved maybe one or two of those efforts, you know, he could have followed Jaeger. But again, you can't really predict that when you can't see what's going on like face to face. But yeah, great hit by Jaeger, sustained power, and took it to the line.
And then you see the race behind him, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth place, all together in that group. So close finish for second. It just goes to show you Jaden Jaeger really was above and beyond everyone else out there today. Going to be interesting to watch heading into Intelligentsia tomorrow. A rolling circuit course, a lot of ups and downs. Not as good for a bigger rider, but if you can get some separation, you can get away, then tomorrow may be another good day for Jaeger as well. Plus, he's got the hot watts coming in. When you get a victory, it's a lot easier to get your second one in. When you're hot, you're hot.
I have to tell Kevin just to let go of those sandbags. They're not helping him at all.
We'll see if they make any more changes to their setup. Bouchard Hall's got to get whatever Jaeger put on his trainer this week. We see some of our riders outside the top 20 finishing up here as well.
I think this day could surprise a lot of these, or probably did surprise some of these athletes. You know, you've gone from like Tour of the Gila, this sustained effort, and kind of roll into the climbs and have a longer, hard effort. And then today is just like I said, just a 1-2 punch from the gun. It's just stimulus of just like full gas effort off, full gas effort and off. And so to see that group come out of the front, yeah, those guys were ready. They knew it was going to be tough. And another name that we're not used to seeing this far back is Bickley. So, yeah, again, you got to wonder off the bike situation. Yeah, maybe openers for tomorrow.
Exactly. There's always another day of racing. There's always tomorrow, no matter how the day goes. So Top 20, 30 riders finishing up here, getting their taste of the virtual Tulsa Tough. I'm sure it's just as difficult on the trainer as it is in real life. Again, this course will be available on RGT for all of our riders. If they're joining us in real life for the Tour of the Gila coming up this summer, then, well, this would be a great way to prep for it. So, again, congratulations to Jaden Yeager, your winner today by 6 seconds over Jan Emmerich and Matt Usborn, leading the group of 6 riders together with Ben Thomas, Zach Nair, Mason Roca, and last week's winner, Kevin Bouchard-Hall. Will Harden ends up 8th for Project Echelon. And then Christopher Hatz jumping out of the group behind them at about a minute and a half back for the Beast Mode presented by Rose Team, just getting the best of Hayden Warner, the Above and Beyond Cancer presented by Bike World Rider, rounding out your top 10. Well, our first day of racing this weekend, we continue tomorrow with the Intelligentsia Cup, same time at 11 o'clock Eastern start time for our pro women, and then the rolling hills of Lake Ellen awaiting the riders for the next stop of the Echelon Racing League. That'll do it for our coverage of our pro women and pro men. Congratulations to Jackie Godby and Jaden Yeager, our winner. But Lauren, looking ahead to tomorrow, final thoughts. I mean, do we see the same winners tomorrow? Is the course different enough, or is all of this just a fugazi? Who knows who wins every week?
I think we could put everything. All my chips are going in on Godby at this point. I've tried the entire series to kind of bet on somebody else, knowing how good she is and that eventually she's going to crack. Never found it. Don't think it's going to happen. Yep. For the men's race, it's definitely shaking up, and it's fun to see those guys kind of mix it up, especially with all the teams represented in these late race breaks.
Godby getting some challenge, and the men's race wide open as we head to the Intelligentsia Cup tomorrow. That'll do it for us today. For Lauren Holm, my name is Brad Soner, saying thanks for watching. We'll see you back here tomorrow, 11 a.m. Eastern for Pro Win at the virtual Intelligentsia Cup.